And do an audio check.
Audio check-in.
And do an audio check. No, still not
Audio
helping the white
check-in.
balance.
There we go.
Oh, I guess I should say something.
Somebody should
if
probably
we're
say
doing
something.
an audio check.
Yeah. No, still not
Audio
helping the white
check-in.
balance.
There we go.
Oh, I guess I should say something.
Somebody should
if
probably
we're
say
doing
something.
an audio check.
Yeah. All right. I can't
Jenda's
figure
here.
out what it's going to take to make this camera behave. Probably, here's the real problem. And it's going to be a rare treat to the YouTube people who are watching this. This is what my room actually looks like.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I just have it zoomed in really tight. And that's probably what's messing with the white balance. Yeah.
Oh, because it's trying to balance the whole thing and not just the part you have it zoomed in for.
Right. And it has this, is in the frame and all the stuffage. Yeah. So this is the image I want to present, but right, as soon as I do that, it doesn't know how to balance it.
Gotcha.
That's where having a real camera and not a $50 webcam would help.
So what you do, here's the fix for this, Mark. We're going to go low tech. You get a Post-it note and you cut out a little square and you put it up there so it's only catching the stuff in the middle.
Yeah, I don't know that would actually work, but
it wouldn't unwork. I mean, if it doesn't work now.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd shoot through that hole. I mean, how would...
I mean, you cover up part of the camera with the hole, but the outer part. So it's like instead of putting a software frame, you're putting a hardware frame. Yeah,
but to see what I'm doing is actually zooming in on the center of the image. I'm not blocking out the image necessarily.
I know the hardware Post-it note would block out the extra stuff.
I don't think so. I think you would just see the Post-it note. Right. So I guess. Do they make black Post-it notes? I don't think so. You have to use black construction paper, maybe. Maybe that would work. Well,
construction paper, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, or, buy a real camera and not a $50 webcam. Everything on this show is smoke and mirrors. Every bit of it. In fact, somebody's been moving stuff around. You can see right there, there's a box there that somebody has moved and has stuff on it. My wife does her workout in this room too, and so she moves things around. And while I want to support my wife's working out and getting healthy, she's messing with my stuff. Let me see if I can fix that.
It just means you got to buy a bigger house.
Dang real estate. You can still see it. Now we can't see it.
What desk? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, that's a winner.
Still see it in the corner a little, but...
not too bad.
And see, this is all being broadcast for the world to see. Awesome.
Behind the scenes.
Microphone stands falling apart. Everything. Smoke and mirrors, man. Smoke and mirrors. Every bit of it. All right. See if I can force this white balance back again. It's not... yeah. I have to take the brightness down. It's not the white balance. Anyway. Hey, Jenda. Welcome to Mr. Hunter's fiasco.
Ginger's in the house.
All right. Let me clear the chat room. Then we'll be ready to go. Oh. Shh, Jenda. Trying to start now. All right. Yeah, I didn't say, please start your local recording devices.
Oh, man. I haven't done this in 7 days. I forgot.
My Fitbit is held together with Velcro. talk about everything here being smoke and mirrors. The stupid clasp broke, and this is an old model, and you can't buy the clasp anymore. They don't sell them because they want you to buy a new Fitbit, obviously. And so I stapled some Velcro onto it. It's working fine.
There you go.
You can't buy just the band?
No, there is no band. The electronics are molded into it.
The one I bought is like the Fitbit pops out of the band and you can change it like a watch band. So.
Yeah, all the new models do that. This is the old Fitbit Charge, the original, even before the Charge HR, that I bought used on eBay for $30. And Fitbit doesn't want me to have the old one. They want me to buy a new one for $300. Anyway, conspiracy theories abound. Oh, and there goes my white balance again.
You want to buy my Fitbit?
Sure. $5.
No. See, mine's old as well, but not quite as old as yours.
I only wear this because my company makes me. Well,
Right.
my company bribes me. Otherwise, I don't. I wonder if, let's see, if I took the tilt up a little, would that help?
It's a bit off center.
Yeah, I'll fix it. But I'm just wondering if that's going to help the
Oh, it might.
white issue at all. Maybe. Again, that's digital. I didn't actually move the camera. I just moved the image around in the Nope, didn't help at all.
What?
You'd be
the
amazed.
Pictures are in the computer?
Can you turn off the auto exposure thing on the camera?
No, of course not.
See, even our CCTV cameras we use at our rental properties have that. It's like auto white balance. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
well, I can turn off, but that's not the issue. So that's what happens. I turn off the white balance. The white balance is about color. This is the brightness. I've tried playing with the contrast.
Gamma? No.
I don't have gamma. I have brightness, contrast, saturation, sharpness, white balance, and backlight comp, which I don't have any. I'm not backlight, but let me see. If I crank that up to max, let's see what happens. Anyway,
Right.
This is riveting podcast entertainment right here. But I'm just tired of every show. I'm constantly writing that brightness. It goes wonky. I bring it down, comes back. I bring it back up 20, 30 times during. I mean, you've seen just in the 10 minutes or so we've been talking how many times I've had to do it. This is why, Patreon people, you need to pay for what you like. Honestly. Not Patreon people. I'm talking to you. Anyway. Let's start a show, shall we? See if I can hold this thing together. This wouldn't be a problem if my paycheck weren't supporting my passion. If my passion were supporting my pay, wouldn't have this problem. All right, here we
We
go.
need a podcast about that.
Yeah.
Okay. I restarted my broadcast to cut out all of that.
You mean you're recording?
Yeah. Whatever. The thing. And the other thing.
Move that thing. All right, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geek Rant, episode 337, Passion versus Paycheck, recorded September 16th, 2018, and brought to you by Element OP Productions, elementop.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Drive Time Radio for Geeks. I am your host, Mark, the white balance out of balance of the internet or something. Joining me, as always, are your two stalwart co-hosts, Seth, the Gooey Kid Anderson, and Miles, the Oxygenator Wakeham. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, Mark, and welcome, faithful Opeites.
What up, geeks?
Seth has clearly been recently thrown in prison by the orange shirt and the skin head. So, how's that going for you?
It's a reddish shirt, and I had to, I have to comb my hair now. It's time for a haircut.
Yes, I know that. My rule is if you can tell I've had a nap, it's time for a haircut. Right. If at any point my hair shows the status of my having been laying in bed, it's time for a haircut.
Amen, brother. Preaching to the choir.
I'm all about low maintenance.
Just lose your hair. That works every time.
You know, I don't want to be partially bald. I want to be either all bald or not bald. And the problem is people don't go completely bald because then you end up having to shave or you've got the monk do going on. That's even more maintenance. You know, if I could like laser treat my hair so that it never came back and I never had to mess with it again, I'd probably be okay with that. No.
I mean, you know, Mr. Clean for the win. I can't disagree.
But this is a complaint that only people with hair have. People who don't have a great deal of hair wish they could complain about that. So, first world problems, first hair problems.
Yeah.
So just a quick announcement. We will not have a show next week. I have a church thing next Sunday night. I don't know what it is with these church people. They like to do things on Sunday, something about being God's day. I'm not really sure what that's all about. So I won't be here next week, so we won't be doing a show. I don't think most of you care, but I just feel that I should mention that. That's all
They care. They really do care.
Jinda cares. Thank you, Jinda, for expressing that sad face emoji. And in my continuing quest to go back and revisit items from my earlier days and see if they hold up, Junior, starring Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger, does not hold up. Just going to say that. I Netflixed it this weekend. It wasn't terrible, but that's the best I can say about it. It wasn't terrible. The jokes weren't funny. The feminist agenda that I noticed the first time around was really blatant. And there's just so many times you can see the big guy and a little guy doing physical comedy. Yeah, just didn't work. So anyway, in case you wondered, Junior, that masterpiece of film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, where Arnold Schwarzenegger gets pregnant and carries a baby full term. Spoiler alert. Not a great piece of cinematic art.
Now, if I remember, that movie followed the success of Terminator and a successful Danny DeVito movie that I cannot put my finger on.
I think it was Throw Mama from the Train that launched him into that career. Yes.
Yeah. So
he was still riding high off a taxi.
They're banking on celebrity names on the VHS cover, I guess.
Well, they did the Twins also. I'm not sure which came first. So Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger were twins. I'll be revisiting that one in the near future as well.
Oh, okay. I thought when you said Junior and the movie I was thinking of was Twins. Okay. So okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they're basically the same movie with the same three jokes, just built around a slightly different premise. That's what I'm going with. And I didn't remember this, but the Danny DeVito love interest in Junior was the Arnold Schwarzenegger love interest from Kindergarten Cop, which I also recently watched. It holds up better. Just saying.
Wait a minute. Love interest or the teacher?
Well, the teacher, not the love interest.
Okay.
You're right. The one, the fellow cop who was supposed to be the teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the redhead. That redheaded chick from the 80s.
I haven't seen either of those movies in years. And oh my gosh, I'm on film.
All right, so Jenda, quick on the Wikipedia. Twins came out first, 1988. Junior came out in 1994. So.
Oh, wow, that far apart.
Yeah. Schwarzenegger was already well into middle age at that point. He was like 46, 47 years old then.
It's not middle-aged.
Yeah, it is.
When did he become the governor?
That was later. Jenda, quick. Probably early 90s, mid 90s. Honestly, don't remember.
No, early aughts.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. I've spent way too much time on this completely frivolous and useless project. So let's talk about some more frivolous and useless stuff. Equalizer 2.
Okay, well, Denzel in the I mean, he could probably do a movie of watching paint dry or reading a phone book, and he would bring passion to that role. So Equalizer was a great movie. I really enjoyed the movie.
The first one?
Yes, the first one.
Okay.
And the second one follows his story, and it's not a bad movie, but it's not as good as the first one. So kudos on not remaking the same film. Although, I mean, it's doing a lot of the same stuff because it's kind of an action movie, but they didn't try to just remake the first film. So kudos for that, but it wasn't as good, but it wasn't bad. So, go to the matinee, do the home video thing. But it was an okay movie.
Right. Yeah. And you put in here the honest trailer for Predator, which the original Predator is the handshake that makes you grow a mustache. That's really go look that up right now. Pause the show and type in honest trailer Predator. We'll wait.
I think that is the best honest trailer I have ever. There's been some good ones, but to me that was the best one. Starring the future governor of California, the future governor of Minnesota, and
the gubernatorial candidate for
And half the movie, and you don't realize that half the movie is staring quietly at trees.
That's true.
It's a great, and I mean, they could re-release that movie today, and I think it would probably, unless it was going up against a Marvel movie, it would probably win its opening weekend because other than the crappy CGI spaceship that they should just do away with at the beginning, it really holds up very well.
I didn't remember that's where "Get to the Chopper" came from, but it did.
Oh yeah, dude! I have to watch that honest trailer like every night now before I go to bed because it is just so funny, and it is so great. The greatness of I even watched the commentary of the honest trailer, which was, and it wasn't something I normally do because honestly, they were saying, there's not a lot to talk about. We were able to get it all in the movie or all in the honest trailer. So that is like I say, that's one of the best honest trailers I've ever seen.
All right. And then it's hot in the desert. Why are you surprised by that, Miles?
Mm-hmm. Well, soon it won't be. And that's what's got us all jazzed here in Phoenix. I took a look at it's stupid, isn't it? Most people don't study weather like it's a thing, like, weather nerds. But when you live out here in the desert and it's 120 degrees outside, you become a weather nerd. And so I've been studying, the weather because at some point it's got to give, right? It's been over 100 degrees, over 105, 110 for 3 months. And thankfully I got out of Dodge in that time. But I got to look at the computer this week, and lo and behold, yesterday was the hottest day for the rest of 2018 in Phoenix. From here on, we go plummeting down. Bring on the Arctic.
All right. Well, congratulations to you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, we've already started to see some color here in the Atlantic area, and it's signs of winter abound. Haven't seen any Ugg boots yet. No Ugg boot sightings in the wild. However, there were at least 3 people drinking pumpkin spice coffee this morning at church. So the signs are there.
2 nights this week, I went to sleep in my room without my air conditioner on. So
wow. Yeah. All right. Wow. I forgot to set any timers, so we'll just see what happens. I think that was about a 17-minute, 5-minute warm-up section. So let's
10 if you want to know.
Let's go on with the topic of the show. And this isn't really a topic. It's a discussion. It's an idea. It's an opportunity to commiserate with one another. And this is sort of a recurring theme that comes up a lot of time on this show and on other shows, and generally middle-aged white guys have this conversation on a regular basis. And that's there's a thing I want to do, and there's the thing I get paid to do. And someday I would like for the thing I want to do to be the thing I get paid to do. But in the meantime, I have to get paid to do the thing I want to do. And, I'm having a hard time coming up with an example of this off the top of my head. Maybe maybe a guy who does some sort of internet media content on a regular basis. I know this is a stretch. I'm not really sure it's a realistic idea, but maybe, I don't know, a weekly, what's the word for it? Podcast. Maybe there's a guy or maybe 2 or 3 guys that do some sort of weekly podcast. And the idea is that someday they would like to be paid to be internet personalities. But instead, in the meantime, they're using $30 webcams and Velcroed Fitbits because they have to get paid at their regular jobs and they can't afford to pay to do their passion. And what's the roadmap from paycheck to passion? That's the discussion for tonight. Having introed that, guys, go.
Okay, well, I want to say, because, I mean, this could just be the Miles show because he's living the dream. But I want to say that I think a lot of times we start off with too high of an expectation of, oh, I've got my first job, so now I can get the new smartphone, I can get the new laptop, the new computer, I can get Netflix, I can get Amazon, I can get Hulu, I can get Prime, I can get I can get a new car. And then so we waste all of our money digging ourselves in a hole. And then so we try to get out of it. Whereas if we were disciplined, if I had been disciplined to not do that and to live within my means and save and invest, and I think it's a Dave Ramsey quote, but if not, it ought to be. Don't work for your money, make your money work for you. So, and you get some investments. And again, there's smart investing, there's stupid investing, invest in what you know, all of that kind of stuff. We're just 3 guys talking, consult a professional, blah, blah, blah. But if we did that, then a lot of times what it is for me is it's the fact that I have to go to work today and tomorrow and next week and next month and next year, because then I won't have enough money later. Whereas it's not that my job is bad, but the fact that there's that fear of, if I don't go to there, I'm going to lose my house, I'm going to lose my car, I'm going to lose whatever. And so if you put your money to work for you, then all of a sudden you have to work. Just small Christian slant. The commandment to work in the Bible came before sin. So just, get over that. But work doesn't mean you have to slave at a job you hate. There's volunteering to help people other than you. You're trying to produce something that you think is of value. So work is a broad definition, broad term these days. You're going to work, but the difference of, hey, I want to try to do this and see what happens. And if it fails, it's okay, because I've still got money coming in and I'm not going to go hungry, or my family's not going to go hungry because I didn't, I only made the equivalent of minimum wage this week. So I know that's part of it. That's not all of it. That's just, I wanted to have something to say in this conversation before Miles took it and ran with it.
Is that a segue?
Yeah.
Trying. Right. It's there's an interesting, there's my story and there's what I see with everybody else, and I think the latter is probably more relevant. It's a lot of it is just a misunderstanding or a misteaching, possibly, of how people are in their late teens, early 20s. Let me explain what I mean by that. I was raised a businessman, so I know about the basics of business. And so what that typically means is that if you understand how to read, for example, a balance sheet for a business, you can use that as a kind of a methodology for life. And in a balance sheet, you have a thing called assets and you have a thing called liabilities. And then the difference is what we call net worth, in effect. And there's an addition that feeds into that net worth that adds to it, and it's called earnings. Earnings is what we do when we go to work, right? We get a paycheck, work 40 hours or whatever. You get a paycheck. That's earnings. That's like a business's profit and loss statement, if that makes any sense. Earnings, what contributes to your actual net worth is your earnings less your expenses, what it costs you to exist for that job. And what happens is when we leave high school or even during high school, we get taught that we should go and find a path for ourselves, what we want to be: a doctor, a lawyer, a computer programmer, a engineer, a metal worker, whatever it might be, a carpenter, whatever you might want to be, you can do that. But the pretense is that you start off living with maybe your parents or, inexpensively, and then you go out to become a journeyman, become an apprentice, and then a journeyman, and eventually, a practitioner of your craft. And the problem is that we've got this predefined 40-year get a retirement check and go off into the sunlight kind of attitude that doesn't work anymore. I mean, it just doesn't work at all. My story is that I didn't start that. I started that journey knowing what I wanted to do at a very young age. I was very, very lucky. But the first thing I did was I bought assets. I took the pure business model to heart, and I said, well, if my expenses are really low because I'm living at home, and I've got revenue because I had some jobs in my early years where I needed to make money. If I make more money than my expenses, which is clearly easy to do when you're 20 years old, right? If you can increase your savings rate to maybe 70% of your earnings, which for a kid living at home with their parents is doable, and you start socking that money away into interest-bearing investments, which is your balance sheet assets, what eventually happens is those assets on their own develop dividends. They develop interest, and that interest eventually, as you grow it, becomes enough to replace the need for you to go and get a job and generate revenue. And that was the path that I followed for the first maybe 5 years of my life. And then I got married. I had to get a house. I had to get a real job. I had to do all the things that, I thought was social norms. And I kind of lost the plot, And eventually things changed in my life, and I went back onto that plot. And the one thing that did it for me that was very rapid was real estate. I bought a lot of real estate many, many years ago. And today that real estate generates rent, and I can live off the rent. I also followed that same model by using data centers and hosting of servers as kind of digital real estate. I bought into that very early on, and the revenue I generate from running those servers contributes to that as well. And eventually you get more revenue than you need to spend, and then you put it back into assets, and you can see how the self-sustaining prophecy continues. Well, that was my journey. But today, most millennials who are dealing with, I don't want to go into the world with a big student debt and, having more month than money and all those sorts of things. What they're doing is they're following a path called FI, financial independence. And it's a very, very popular metaphor that they can follow. There are podcasts about it. There are luminaries in that industry. I encourage anybody to Google the crap out of FI. I mean, find everything you can possibly find about this thing, because there are people out there who in 5 years have made $1 million and never have to work another day in their life, and then are in a position where they can follow the passion over the work. I don't think those people should be criticized for doing that sort of thing. They lived a uber frugal life. They still live at home. They share a place with 5 other people. They ride a bike. They don't have a car. They live these kind of hippie-esque alien lifestyles. But in some ways, I think they should be celebrated, because in a country of the United States where we unfortunately celebrate debt, even though we don't want to, the media celebrates it. Like, you want to have the biggest McMansion and drive the biggest car and live like, you can get a Learjet or something, and it's not going to happen, right? But that's promoted as goals. These people are living a very obviously different lifestyle, and they're banking it away. And what happens at the age of 30, they've got the rest of their life and never have to work another day in it. And then they can do what their passion dictates.
So I think you said a lot there, but one of the things I wanted to touch on is part of the problem is that we often discover our financial needs before we discover our passion, right? So you get married, you have kids, you find this work-a-day life developing, and then you find the thing that you love to do. It would be nice if you came out of middle school knowing what you wanted to be when you grow up, knowing what your passion would be, and then you could pursue that sort of thing singularly. But Miles, your method is great if you have the forethought and you have the planning and you can do that. But by the time you're 40 years old, that ship has sailed. There's just not enough time left, or there's too many commitments left for most people, or maybe the better way to put that is we're not willing to make the sacrifices. So if I make significantly more money than I did when I was 20, what I also spend significantly more. If I could go back and live on what I lived on when I was 20, I could be banking tons of money, do that for 5 to 7 years, and then I'm financially independent and I can do whatever I want. That's a pretty high cost to pay, and it's not just my cost. It's a cost that my wife has to pay. These little humans that I brought into the world have to pay the cost now, and so it is perceived, perhaps rightly, perhaps wrongly, as selfish at that point, because you are harming, if I want to use a loaded word, your family for the sake of your selfish passion.
Well, if you can, look, I agree with you. When you're on your own, you have the power to do this sort of thing much easier than when you've got a family in tow. I do know a lot of people who are, followers of FI who are family people, but it's typical that both the husband and the wife are following the same passion of financial independence together as a team. And sometimes that's hard because, and I've been in situations where I'm very lucky. My wife is very much on board with financial independence. She has been for a long time. She was really the one who pushed us into real estate, and thank God she did. But I think a lot of people don't have that. It's a very difficult situation. And there's also the risk of the flip side of it. Like, you go anti-FI. And one thing that is very interesting is that my daughter, who's in her last year of college right now, myself and my daughter are going to be attending some Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University classes at the church nearest her college. I'm going to drive down a couple of hours down to Tucson each week to work with her and attend that class. And my primary reason, I gave it to her as a gift for Christmas last year. My primary reason for doing that was that I wanted her to see what life can look like when you're carrying $100,000 of credit card debt and you lose your job, and what families go through and the pain and suffering. She's a very active Christian in her local church. She puts me to shame, but I think because a lot of these classes are being held by her church or within the church community, she's willing to listen to this. And I'm just hoping that at her age that she can see the mistakes that other people have potentially made. And information is power, right? I mean, if you can just see it, maybe you're forewarned, so you may not fall down that path. I don't know. But that's a gift I can try and give her. Whether she wants to become FI-oriented is up to her, but at least don't fall down the trap of being anti-FI.
Amen. Debt never wins. I mean, nobody borrows their way into wealth. I mean, that's a financial technique that is often talked about, leveraged investments, which is trying to borrow your way into the wealth. It fails far more often than it works. Our current president has gone bankrupt, 5 times by leveraging his way into debt. He had a name and he had a reputation where people were willing to keep giving him money. And eventually he's back to being a billionaire after having been broke several times. That's not a life. I mean, the billionaire part would be nice, but that kind of roller coaster is just not a life I want for my family. So, I'm just looking for some sort of practical way. I mean, I naively used to think if you produce a quality product, people will pay you for it. I'm sad to say, after 10 years of podcasting, I no longer believe that. There's just more to it than that. So how do you get to that side thing to be your passion thing? And I I don't know that there is a way. Maybe it's all about luck, and that's just all there is to it.
No, I think it is commitment, and fortune favors the bold. What outside people see as luck is the end result. We see hey, look, they broke through. We didn't see them slinging the sledgehammer for 10 years before they finally broke through. And I don't want to do the tinfoil hat thing tonight, but I do want to point out that we are a media consuming culture. And the media pushes a message that we must spend our resources to get stuff because, Apple wants you to buy things. They don't want you to save money. They want you to spend it. Ford, Chevrolet, they don't want you to save money. They want you to spend it. They want to get rich. Arnold doesn't want you to save money. He wants you to go pay $15 so you can see him say, "Get to the chopper," at a movie theater, So there is this message hammered on us day in, day out. Oh, great, you have an ad blocker on your smart device. What about the product placement? What about the celebrities who are, sporting the, whatever, driving the Bentley, and you want one too, so you buy a car you can't afford because you feel like you're more like them? Or, oh, look at the pretty young starlet who has their clothing line. They're almost a millionaire. Let's do a Kickstarter and I'm going to give them my money. And that message is pounded on us day in, day out. It's like this 500-pound gorilla that has us in a bear hug, just beating us until we just say, "Take my wallet, take my future wallet, take my kid's wallet." And I'm not saying don't buy anything, because then the economy grinds to a crashing halt and their unemployment shoots up. But just be aware of that message, that impulse to buy. Granted, everybody has it, but it is being fanned into a flame by the constant advertisement that are just wailing on us as we drive down the road or as we walk down the thing, or stuff that comes up on this screen that I bring into the safety of my house, whatever. Don't forget that. Don't be so ignorant and choosing to be ignorant, not stupid, ignorant, to think that, oh, I'll just never amount to anything. Oh, I have a spending problem. Great. What's the reason you have a spending problem? Let's cut off some of that stimulus. Realize you don't need, a latte every day of the week and twice on Friday. Don't give them up cold turkey, but get one instead of 6 or 7 a week, and look at the money you would save. And then you would be in a position to where, hey, I don't have to try to work 80 hours a week. I can get by with just 70 this week and spend some time with my family. So
while I appreciate the value of a good rant, what does that have to do with the topic at hand? I mean, okay, don't be a consumer. Okay. But how does that get you to where you can make a money off of doing the thing that you like to do?
Because
maybe I can answer that.
Go ahead.
Let me interject an answer and tell me if I'm right or wrong with your thought. But this is how I interpret it. Simple. Don't sell your time out cheaper than your consumption. In other words, don't go and spend money on that flat screen TV that you want because the ad told you to buy it. If it's going to mean that the, say, $1,000 that you spend on it is going to require you to work 3 or 4 extra days. Because if you had 3 or 4 extra days, you could devote it to your passion. And then you look back at the TV and go, it's not worth it.
I mean, that's part of it, but it's also, I am afraid that if I try my passion and don't succeed, I will be broke. Well, if you have a cushion to fall back on, you won't be broke. And if you waste your money on trinkets and times in the shiny bauble, then you'll always be too afraid to take that risk. That's part. I mean, this is this show for me is a conversation that I've been having with 3 or 4 people for the last 2 days. It's like, I said goodbye to this person and I picked up the conversation with someone else. It's weird. But so anyway, and like I say, I'm different than everybody else. So I get that nobody understands what I'm saying. But I think that if I knew that I could afford to, try and fail, then I'm more apt to go than to think if I fail, I'll lose it all. It's one thing to say, if I fail, I got to go back to the space one. It's another thing to say, if I fail, I'm 10 feet behind. So
let me see if I can make a little sense of the mind of Seth. It sounds to me like you have a couple of different threads going there. One is you have to invest in the thing you want to do, and one way to invest in that is to not spend it. So basically, you're saving for your passion. One of the reasons people have a hard time saving money is because they don't see the reason to. Particularly if you've got a good job and a good income, why save? There's always more money there. And so I heard you say that you need to be able to have a nest egg to be able to take a risk. So you want to invest in your future self so that you can work, you can save now, conserve now, so that you can have that later. Another thing I heard you say there is I'm afraid, I don't know the exact words, but if I do this and fail, I think part of the problem there is, we all take the greatest risks when we're younger. That's biology, that's genetics, that's brain development, but it's also, it just makes sense in life. You have the less to lose, so you take the greater risks. And as you get older and more settled, and you see more of your life behind you than in front of you, you start to be a little risk averse. And I also think that part of that is true in whatever your side passion may be, like podcasting, woodworking, boat building, car racing, whatever that may be. There's an investment in that too. You have to spend time to get world class at something. And if you're 45 years old, you've probably been in the workplace, 15 to 20 years. And so you have become world class at what you do, whether you realize it or not. By doing it for 15 to 20 years, you've become world class at it. But that side hustle, that project that you've been doing, you're not world class at that yet. And so you can't demand world class prices for something you're not world class at. And that becomes a budgetary concern. Just like you budget your money into your savings account, you need to budget your time into a savings account for your side hustle to become world class at it. So that's my distillation of what you just said. Does that make sense? Is that about right?
Right. And if you have a cushion, you can get by while you're building your world-class ability versus I have to hit it out of the park at the first swing, or I can take a couple of pitches and see if I can figure out what's going on. And, when are you at the stage of the game where, if you strike out the first time, you got enough left for another swing, or are you so late and so far behind that your only hope is to swing with everything you have at something you've never done before and hope you hit it right? So that's the point I'm trying to emphasize, that maybe a younger person can pick up on and go, crap, I don't want to be a middle-aged person with nothing in the bank kind of thing. So I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
There's probably 90+% of the world isn't doing the job that when they were a kid they wanted to do. Right. There's not a lot of firemen. There's percentage wise, there's not 100% of the young males in the world who want to be a fireman or a policeman or a rodeo or an NFL. They're not. Right. So that means that most of us are doing something we didn't intend to do. Most of us stumbled off balance and backwards into our careers. And, we found out that we were pretty good at something and we moved from one place to another. And before long, you're in a cube, or you're at a toll booth, or you're a manager at a restaurant, and you're doing fairly well. You're supporting your family, but you're doing a thing that you never set out to do. And I think part of that is because most of us, at least here in the U.S., we don't set out to do things, like, ever. We don't teach our children that. It's almost considered wrong to have a child set a goal at 8 and work toward that. I work with a lot of people from India, And, they are doctors, they are technicians, they are programmers. And it was because in many cases they were told by their parents, this is what you will be. You will be a doctor. You're going to medical school. You're going to be a doctor. That's going to happen. And they are, and they're succeeding. To the American mindset, that seems almost abusive to tell a child, hey, you're not old enough yet to know what you should do. So I'm going to tell you what you should do. And if you follow my plan, you will be successful. But we somehow hope our children will find success on their own. And maybe while we're not even sure how to lead them to that.
Well, we also are impatient, and that's our biggest flaw. Because if you really want to achieve happiness, it doesn't happen instantly. It's not like you can flick a light switch and you're happy. If you want to find that passion's a lifelong journey. I guarantee you might think you know what it is at the age of 8 or 18 or 30. And then after you've been doing it for 10, 20 years, you might go, nah, I'm over it. I want to do something else. And then you go in search of your next passion. And if we realize that life is a journey and it's, 80, 90 years worth of journey, then it's a long game. And the fact is that what we do is we make these like ridiculously short, instant decisions that negatively affects the long game. And there's 2 words which has saved my bacon so many times, and I think it should be something that everybody embraces. It's called delayed gratification. If you see something you want, walk away from it and think for 24, 48, 72 hours, let it season, and then work out if maybe you still want it. I'd say 75% of the time you'll go, nah, I don't care about that anymore. And yet you are about to go into debt to buy it or lose the savings you had in your account to have it. And then when you get it, are you happier? Probably not. The reality is that life is a long journey, and we've got to plan it out like a marathon, not a sprint. And that means that you need checkpoints along the way. And you need to know that as soon as you can get off the obligation of having to work for somebody else and make somebody else rich, and you start looking at yourself and your own family and your own security seriously, and the earlier you do this, the better, the more likely you will be off that treadmill. And if you can't get to the point, if you become so entrenched in having to make somebody else rich and just be paid by the hour, day after day after day, it's harder to break free of that. It's really, really hard. But it's a conscious decision. And you need to make a decision of self-sacrifice, and that might be cutting back on as much as you can cut back in order to save. Max out your 401k at work, especially if your employer matches your contributions. That money will save your life when you're 60 years old. It really will. And it's a great tax deduction. There's all these things that are there that you can take advantage of, even if you've burdened with the 40-hour work week. But all of them require you to embrace delayed gratification so that you can invest and you can save now, and you'll secure your future. But the fact is that most people, and unfortunately I see a lot of it in the tech space, people will spend their immediate money and think there is no future, because we in the tech world live in the world of obsolescence. Like we build something and a year later it's obsolete, we chuck it out, or we buy something and a year later it's obsolete and we chuck it out, and we get so habitual into this mode. That's not how life works. Life doesn't work like a computer. It works like a marathon of a 90-year spread, and it gradually increases in a kind of a linear fashion based on your investment. Just keep investing. And forget what CNBC tells you the stock market's up or it's down, or it's going to crash, or it's going to be a boom or whatever. Forget all that. That's all speculative media to sell pharmaceutical ads on TV. That's got nothing to do with reality. Reality is put some money away. Just keep doing it and take advantage of when somebody is going to match your contribution.
All right. This absolutely did not go where I thought it was going to go, but that's what I like about these conversations. But we're kind of at that time where we're circling, we're saying the same things over and over. So let me try to wrap it up here and just say, give me 30 seconds worth of final thoughts. Go, Seth.
Oh, golly. Here's the thing. If you want to do something, you've got to sacrifice. You can sacrifice your time and your energy now or later. You can do without, or you can go in debt. So I'm sorry, my 30 seconds are just jumbled mess.
All right, Miles, your turn.
Well, I would just say don't sell out your tomorrow to try to make a better today, because when tomorrow comes and you're not ready for it, you'll not enjoy the experience.
All right, and I think my last little bit is doing what you want to do is hard. That's why most people don't do it. And we talked about investing. We talked about investing your time. We talked about investing your efforts. Do the hard thing so that you can do the fun thing. And we all want to just play all the time, and we don't want to do the hard stuff. We just want to do the fun stuff. But you have to succeed at anything. You have to do the hard stuff. So when we talk about passion versus paycheck, you know what the word passion means? From Latin, passio, it means suffering. The passion is the thing for which you would suffer. We've misused the word for about a century in our country. But when you hear the phrase "the passion of the Christ," right? That's not about the fact that he was just burning with desire to do what he did. He was willing to suffer. When we talk about passionate love, it's love for which you would suffer. When we talk about pursuing your passion, it's the thing for which you will suffer. Most of us find our passion, if we find it all, we find it later in life when the suffering is the most painful, and you end up dragging other people into your suffering. But if it's a passion, you're going to have to suffer. Do the hard thing so that you can do the fun thing. That's my synopsis.
I would add one little tangent takeaway. There's a guy on the internet. If you haven't discovered him, you should. Mr. Money Mustache. Okay, that's his website, www.mrmoneymustache.com. Read this guy's story and his blogs, and you'll get it. And once you get it, your world will change.
Miles is all about the FI these days.
All about the FI.
And that's what we all want. We all want to be. That's what we consider retirement. When you don't have to work anymore. Why don't you have to work anymore? Because you are financially independent and you don't have to go to that office anymore. Most people, when they achieve retirement, they're not actually independent. They're just continuing to get paid for work they've done, right? The pensions, retirement plans, things like that. To be financially independent is to just truly be that, to be dependent on no one and no thing.
Yeah, that's like my dad, his side hustle was the National Guard. So he worked a job where he was on call, and then he also worked for the Guard. And between him and my mom, when they retired, their income is over $70,000. So, their side hustle was not saving and investing, but pensions and Social Security. And pensions are, a bygone ways that most people won't see anymore. But their side hustle is he can sit on his butt watching television and clicking around on Facebook and make $70,000 a year. So because he worked when other people were taking the weekends off and taking vacations all the time. My dad went to work, sometimes hopped up on pain pills because his back was killing him, but then he provided for him and his wife and his kids through his retirement years. So
he did the hard thing. He suffered.
Yep. So now he doesn't have to.
Seth, I have one more question. What happened this week in history?
All right, Mark. Well, I wanted to let you and everybody else know that on September the 13th, 1956, the IBM 305 RAMAC was introduced. The thing that is important about this is the first commercial computer that used a moving head hard disk drive. You might see those in computing devices today. The system was publicly announced on the 14th, but test units were already installed in the Navy and private corporations. RAMAC stood for Random Access Method of Accounting and Control, as its design was motivated by the need for real-time accounting in business. And Mark, that happened this week in history, and now back to you.
And that hard drive in 1956 was roughly the size of a Datsun. Wait, people don't know what Datsuns are anymore. A Volkswagen.
Yeah. And it did what, 10 megs? So
that was probably not, that's probably too much. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the little hard drives that we have, the 3.5 inch, 2.5 inch, 1.5 inch spinning discs. This was where they all began. 1956. The 305 RAMAC.
Thank you, IBM.
And now, Seth, what do you have to? I can't use my intro. I got to come up with what you got, Seth.
Okay, so if you, Mark, I know you get this a lot. Hey, do you know something? And and of course we've used the website. Let me Google that for you. But now there's a new website you can go, and it is called noidon'tknow.com. So just go to noidon'tknow.com. And that's what it says on the page. And so if somebody asks you, hey, do you know what the per capita growth in spending in China is between 1980 and 2015? You can do like a bit.ly URL and do this one and send it to them. And they can click on it and go, no, I don't know. One time use probably, This isn't funny, but this is like a mild chuckle. Sorry.
I don't know what it is about me, my countenance, my appearance. I don't know, but everywhere I go, people ask me questions expecting me to know the answers. I'm at Home Depot. I'm in the plumbing aisle looking for a replacement P-trap for my sink. And somebody comes up to me and says, do you know what no, I'm just a guy looking for a plumbing thing, or wherever I am. I don't know why. Maybe it's being tall and authoritative. I don't know what it is, but it happens every day. Of course,
YouTube
at work
is your friend.
At work, I'm supposed to know these things. I'm expected to know these things. Random mini rant here. It's amazing how many people are afraid to say those words. I don't know. And yet, Socrates said the beginning of wisdom is knowing that you know nothing. Until you say, I don't know, you can't ever know anything. And I work with so many really smart people, and because they're really smart people, they think they always have to have an answer. And they'll only ask a question if they already know the answer, or they'll talk around something to sound competent. No, I don't know is one of my favorite phrases. I don't know. Let's find out. Usually it's I don't know followed by let's find out. People don't do that. Anyway, mini rant over. So this is the part of the show where I tell you how you can feed back to us. Let us know what's on your mind. What is your passion? What is the thing for which you would suffer? And what suffering are you doing to get there? Go to elementop.com, click the Contact Us button at the top of the page, fill out the world's hardest CAPTCHA. Like, what item of clothing do you wear on your hands? Correct answers are gloves, mittens, rings. They're all in there. Fill out the form there, and then that will send an email that gets priority in my inbox. You could also send an email directly without the hardest CAPTCHA by sending an email to geekrant@elementop.com, or you can call 559-IM-OP and leave us a voicemail on our Google Voice box, and we'll very likely play it right here on the show. So let us know what's on your mind. What do you think? Where are we off base? This was a little more preachy show than I like to be, which means that we struck a nerve that people were thinking of. Seth said he'd been having this conversation. Miles has been talking to his daughter about it. When you get to a certain age and a certain stage in life, this is the kind of thing that's on your mind all the time. We would all like for you to have this on your mind before you reach that certain stage in life. So let us know what you think. I'm particularly interested in the millennial point of view on this one. Millennials, I don't understand you at all. I need your help. I need you to help me understand you. So let me know what's on your mind. Why is that avocado toast worth your retirement future? Let me know. elementop.com. Click the Contact Us button at the top of the page. Any final words about anything else before we say goodnight?
If I were to be Frank, I would have to change my name.
There we go. So that will do it for a fortnight. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. First weekend in October. First week in October, I think, will be our next show. Yes, October 3rd. So we'll see you in Pinktober or Boobtober, as I like to call it. And that's it for this episode. And remember, pay for what you like.
Toodaloo.
I think that came in about 51 or 2 minutes. Not bad. For,
sounds about right.
For no timers.
We're getting better at this. This timing.
Well, right. You force a clock often enough, then you eventually don't need the clock. That was my plan all along. Thanks, Jindo. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Cool.
All righty then. I'm going to say goodnight and clear the YouTubes. We'll see you guys later.
Bye, tubes.